Welcome. Joe Volpe, publisher of Corriere Canadese, North America's only Italian-language daily newspaper, on behalf of Go Live TV and the Corriere Media Group, with the comment of today. And it concerns somebody who will not stay out of the limelight, and that's Raj Grewal, the MP for Brampton East. And so, to Brampton. There's an old saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. When in Brampton, integration is a slow process for anyone. Frankly, it involves, among many other factors, adapting to the time-tested customs and practices of your new surroundings. That, in and of itself, consciously or otherwise, dictates an ability and a willingness to learn about the basic codes, legal and ethical, social and moral, that characterize acceptable norms. It also carries with it an incumbent obligation, call it a civic responsibility, to uphold those norms. One of them is honesty. In our multi-ethnic, multiracial, multicultural society, it transcends pigmentation politics and tribalism. It is a guide with which every individual can identify. Even children sense innately what is or is not fair. Some view the press and the media as integral to seeking out the information required to make a balanced value judgment. Has this sense of honesty been breached? Or is it a question of a drive-by smear, a reckless or even malicious accusation? Returning to Raj Grewal, a lawyer and an MP for Brampton East, has made certain decisions that have attracted national attention. The consequences have spilled over to include his party and his longtime friend Navdeep Bains, also an MP and further a minister. Initially, Grewal, a youngish man in his prime, announced his resignation, citing medical issues. The press and the media swarmed to the story. Mr. Grewal had admitted to a gambling problem affecting his mental health. In his capacity as an MP, he asked questions in the committee of the House related to how and why the RCMP would trace sources of money, quote, deposited, end of quote, in the course of banking or gaming. The RCMP had apparently already been investigating his actions. Then Mr. Grewal, unprompted, revisited his decision, announcing that he had paid off the substantial debts, in the millions of dollars, incurred as a result of his habit. How much? To whom? And in return for what? Two newspapers, the Pointer Brampton and the National Post, in their quest for answers, came upon a land deal that merited further examination. The deal suggested some potential connections to both MPs and a possible relationship to the financing issues faced by Mr. Grewal. Those inquiries discovered that a 20-acre parcel of provincial land coveted by the city of Brampton as part of a solution to its transportation issues was acquired by a private company called Goreway Heaven Inc. and resold in a few short months to, guess whom? The city of Brampton. The flip netted Goreway a cool 33% return, $1.1 million in profit. A natural question for the press, or anybody for that matter, is why spend $3.3 million only to sell so quickly? Goreway claims that it found out, subsequent to the purchase, that the parcel was, quote, landlocked, end of quote, and that it could no longer use the property. Seems odd. You buy something you didn't know you couldn't use? The National Post, among others apparently, including the RCMP, received a document from the city prior to both transactions that shows the provincial asking price. That document had previously been given to both Grewal and Bains as part of an advance ask by the city for infrastructure funding. the principals of Galway Heaven have close social and political ties to both MPs, the Post further discovered. It duly published the vehement denials of the principals of Galway that there had been anything untoward, or that anything looped back to the debts that Mr. Greywall had incurred. The protestations of innocence by both the MPs and their friends ensued like a cacophony of self-righteousness by characters in a Shakespearean drama. For good measure, references on their behalf included a former Reformed Conservative Party candidate, immigration lawyer, Joel Etienne. Before anybody could ask how any of these players were related to the debt paydown of Mr. Greywall's habit, the Bramptonist, a local paper touting itself as the voice of the Southeast Asian community, published a lengthy exculpatory piece highlighting and quoting Minister Baines. The Bramptonist was convinced that there is nothing more to the story. They may be right, except, quote, the usual racist, end of quote, allegations, without identifying them or their utterers. Voila, as they say, case closed. Unfortunately, we're no closer to determining whether the events are mere drive-by smears, represent the failings of adherence to the norm of honesty, or are indeed symptoms of a larger, more pervasive ill. Joe Volpe for Corriere Canadese, Go Live TV, and the Corcan Media Group, thanking you for watching and asking you to hold for our commentary in Italian and subsequently in Portuguese. Please follow this advertisement in the interim.
Hi there. I need you to stop what you're doing, and I need you to listen to this story about the Dimitri family. It all starts with Mr. Dimitri, who was an undercover investigator in Italy, fighting organized crime. Unfortunately, his cover was blown, and he had to flee the country with his family to various parts of Europe. But he was found. So he returned to Italy and sought refuge with the nuns. A friend of his with the police told him to come to Canada because Canada is a safe and welcoming country, as we all know it is. The problem, however, is that they've been here for 5 years, and the Canadian government is not extending them permanent residency because Italy is considered a safe and democratic country. It is, but not for the Dimitris. The Dimitri family has 4 young children, and there are people in Italy that want to hurt them. There is hope, however, because the Corriere Canadese, along with Joe Volpe, who was once the Minister of Immigration with the Paul Martin government, they are lobbying at the highest levels of government to help keep the Dimitri family safe here in Canada. But in the meantime, they need to pay rent, they need food to live, they need medicine, because one of their children is suffering from chronic ulcers due to stress because of this situation. So basically, they need to live. This is where I ask you for your help. What would you do in this situation? What would you want people to do for you? This is where I ask you to look into your hearts and find it in yourself to please give generously. If you could find it in your hearts to give at least $25, there's a link provided below, you would be doing a great service. And in the meantime, everybody else will do what they have to do to keep the Dimitris safe in Canada. Thank you.